You might have seen the news that broke probably, about an hour ago, I think it was. Tobias Ellwood. Of course, you'll be familiar with him. If you don't sit there and follow the twists and turns of what goes on in the Westminster bubble, many people will be familiar with him. He was, of course, the MP that tried, I would say incredibly bravely, to do CPR on the police officer. Was it Keith Palmer from memory, of course, that was, well, he was very sadly killed, wasn't he? So Tobias Ellwood, you might be familiar with the fact that he was also the chairman of the Defence Select Committee. Anyway, did you see what I would call, quite frankly, the very strange, weird video that he went on to do about Taliban? Let me just show you a little bit of it if you didn't see it.
Here in Kabul, the streets are relatively safe. The checkpoints have all gone, businesses are reopening, the economy is starting to function. Our British embassy is just through those gates over there. Unfortunately, it's still closed. There is a calm, though, to the country that local elders say they've not experienced since the 1970s. That's how long ordinary Afghans have experienced war.
So, do we shout from afar and risk another era of instability, a rise in terrorism and mass migration, or re-engage? If the EU embassy can open up, so can ours.
I don't know about you, but I personally find that a little bit weird. Many people were saying it's like some kind of propaganda-style video, some kind of weird travel brochure and all the rest of it. Quentin, I'll start with you. What do you make to it?
You should leave, if you're a politician, you should leave the TV reporting to the journalists, to the John Simpsons of this world, because, and particularly so if you're the chairman of a select committee. He was straying into the sort of stuff that's just dangerous for a select committee chairman. If you're a select committee chairman, you're there probably going to be seen as representing the committee. And therefore, it's not surprising that some of the committee members said to dear old Tobias, the matinee idol from Bournemouth, that he'd exceeded his function. He's a good-looking guy. He's got an honourable army record, not necessarily a member of Mensa, and ooh, I'm afraid that...
That's a bit harsh.
Well, it's true, though. He's not the brightest. But, a brighter man would have seen that he was getting into trouble on this. And he's gone tonight, he's resigned. It's very unusual for a select committee chairman or chair rather, to go. These people have become the sort of bishops of the backbenches, and this is quite a significant moment, I think, and it will perhaps stop select committee chairs being such show ponies. In recent years, some of them have become terrible, frightful show-offs.
I'm going to come back in a second to you just about the Taliban more generally, but just in case you're not familiar at home, what was going to happen, there was going to be... So this video, it was basically... he put it on his Twitter. This was before summer recess. Then what they needed to do is come back after the summer recess and have a vote of no confidence. That was due to take place, I think it was tomorrow. He decided that before that vote, he was going to essentially go before, some would say, he was going to be pushed. I will get on to the nuances of the Taliban in a second, but just on the Tobias Ellwood point, first of all, do you think he should have done those kind of videos?
I think everything Quentin just said about his role in terms of chairing a select committee should be completely off boundaries. I mean, on the substance of what he said, I probably agree on most of what he said there. I think the tone
Do you?
I think we should have diplomatic relations with a country which was the home to people who masterminded a terrorist atrocity in 2001, because you want to be collecting intelligence on those people, you want to be ensuring that British nationals who, for whatever reason, get stranded, lost, arrested, kidnapped in Afghanistan, that you have a line of communication with that government. So I certainly think you want some kind of diplomatic presence there. I don't think that means you start doing soft soap quasi-TV adverts about how wonderful Afghanistan is, because it isn't. But I think these are two separate points. I think it's in the national interest to have some kind of diplomatic presence there, for sure.
So what would that look like when you say some sort of diplomatic presence? Like what?
I think an embassy. Yeah, I think an embassy. Just do what the Europeans have done, the EU's done. I mean, that is not so outlandish. And like I said, there's two aspects to that. The first is intelligence gathering. We want to know what's happening inside Afghanistan. We want to know who's jockeying for what positions amongst their political elite, given what happened in 2001. Secondly, we want to be ensuring and guaranteeing the safety of British nationals that happen to be there. Journalists, adventurers who perhaps have made an unwise decision, whatever. So I think he was right on some of these things. He was obviously wrong about many of them. And I think the tone was obviously idiotic, frankly, as well. And like you say, I think any reasonable politician would have seen the response a mile off. But it's a shame, because that's then muddied what I think actually is a controversial but ultimately sensible point.
And what do you make about the suggestion that we somehow, I don't know, make friends, I'm paraphrasing a little bit, but make friends a bit more with the Taliban and all the rest of it?
We've got to be very wary of the Taliban, of course we have, but we've got to be sort of sensible and serious about this. And if you're talking about the government of an important country like Afghanistan, strategically terribly important, then you've got to have some sort of relationship with them. And the same way that the Major government and the Blair government talked to Sinn Féin and IRA, you've got to sometimes hold your nose and deal with some very smelly people. We have diplomatic relations with Vladimir Putin's Russian, and quite right too. So there has to be some sort of dialogue, but it doesn't include some chump going there pretending to be John Simpson. And within half a minute of Ellwood putting his self-serving video out on Twitter, the Afghan government was saying, look, we're great guys. Well, you know, that just showed that it was a complete propaganda own goal.
You don't seem to like Tobias Ellwood.
I like him very much as a person. I'm perfectly happy to chat to him, have a coffee with him, all that, but I just think he's been a fool.
Do you agree with that? Has he been a fool? This wasn't this video for, like, was it the Halo Trust?
Oh, well, it may well have been on that, but I think that's all been lost sight of, hasn't it? It's just all about Tobias. It very often is all about the politician. And there has recently been this tendency of select committee chairs becoming terribly self-promotional. There's a lady who runs the Foreign Affairs Select Committee at the moment, and my goodness, she just thinks of it as a complete vehicle for her own greater glory. It should be about much more serious stuff, and it's about a consideration of the committee, who are well-informed people about foreign affairs. And in this case, it was the Defence Committee, and Tobias has stepped on a landmine.
Yeah, I mean, I've got to say, I do think that a lot of MPs somehow they do seem to think they are some kind of celebrity at this moment in time, which I personally don't like, because I think you're not a celebrity, you're a public servant. Yeah. And I think all of this kind of, your TV presenters, you're writing your books, you're going on your daft reality TV shows, I think it's going to people's heads.
Yeah.
I don't know how I've quite got onto that topic.
It's not actually that new. I mean, Keith Vaz was terrible about this too. Keith Vaz used to run...
Is that the washing machine salesman? From memory.
He then had a little misfortune, but he used to run the Home Affairs Select Committee, really important, serious committee, and it was the Keith Vaz show.
But do you not think it's getting worse, though? Because now, of course, people want that 1-minute clip they can put on TikTok or Instagram or Twitter or Facebook. And I think it reduces a really important function to a mediatised product, which increasingly feels like this is the preface to a career in podcasting or hosting GMB in the mornings, when, of course, actually, that job of chairing a select committee is far more important.
They get extra smarties as well for doing this, of course. They get an extra 16,000, 17,000 quid for chairing a committee. Not bad.
But also, I guess...
Better than GB News.
I think he's doing a subtle hint that he wants a pay rise there. I don't know if anyone picked up on that. I did. But I guess the flip side, I think, of what I was just saying, if I may kind of devil's advocate it, I guess you've got 5-year terms. After that, you could essentially be unemployed. It's very tricky. How do you go from being an MP to just, I don't know, random
give us the violin, Michelle. Give us the violin.
What? I'm playing devil's advocate
office. I mean,
myself.
That's the danger. That's the risk. That's the game.
Is it? Well, I don't know. You get in touch and you give me your thoughts on that.